Now that's the kind of episode I want from this show. Hey guys, it's Kevin again, and this is going to be my review for Bates Motel Season 2, Episode 6, Plunge. And oh my god, guys, this episode was the episode that I wanted from this show. You know, last week, I was pretty much, like, ready to give up on this show. I was pretty much like, okay, this show is boring now. It's no longer as interesting as it was. And I was really ready to just give up on the show. However, this episode completely changed that. I absolutely loved this episode. It was amazing. Everything in it was just so good. And especially that ending. I mean, I'm really looking forward to seeing where that's gonna go. And the episode, you know, definitely, in my opinion, is probably my favorite episode of the season just because of how far it went. And it really covered everything that I wanted it to cover. So, let's just, let's get to, this episode because it was a crazy episode and I loved every single minute of it. I even enjoyed the Norma bypass storyline, and I haven't been enjoying that, but in this episode, I kind of enjoyed it more. I don't know why, but I enjoyed that storyline more in this episode. But let's get to it. So, of course, basically, this episode, it wasn't 5 plots like it was last week. It was only 3 plots this week. Mainly, it focuses on the Norman, Cody, Emma triangle. Kind of a love triangle going on there. The second storyline has to deal with, Dylan and his, new boss, you know, what's going on there. And the third storyline has to do with Norma and the bypass, of course. So, let's, get to, this episode. But first, we're going to talk about Norman's storyline. So, basically, Norma's reading a newspaper, and, Lee Berman's death is on the front page. She rushes out of the kitchen, and Norman comes in, and she finds a beer bottle cap on the floor, and flips out on Norman for drinking. She says that he can't take his driver's license test this weekend if he isn't, you know, sneaking around and drinking. And that's one of the big things in this episode, is that he's trying to get his license. And he reassures her that he won't drink again and that it's not serious. So, Emma is, cleaning the motel rooms and Norman's outside. And he tells Emma that Cody is picking him up. Kind of an awkward scene between Emma and Norman. You know, you can clearly see that even though they have both moved on, they still have that genuine chemistry that, you know, they had in the first season of the show. And we really saw that in this episode, which I also really liked. Now, Cody's going into the parking lot, and Norman jumps in the car, but Norma is completely upset. You know, Norma's thinking, why the hell, he completely disobeyed me, and she tells Norman, I'm not gonna flip out at you this time. She does kick him out of the car and climbs in and tells Cody that Norman can't drink because of medical reasons, and tells her not to let him drink under any circumstances. She climbs out and allows Norman to get back in the car and leave with her. She does tell Norman, though, that this is going to be the last time that he sees her, because she just doesn't think Cody's a good influence on Norman. And the second that she said that, I knew something bad was going to happen. I just had this feeling, you know, throughout this whole episode, when we saw Cody and Norman, I kept thinking, something bad is going to happen to Cody and Norman. Something bad is going to happen here. And it did, and we'll get to that, but Cody clearly doesn't take Norma's warning into consideration because she heads straight to her house to steal a bottle of her dad's, and she doesn't listen to Norma at all. Her dad comes home, and we sort of find out a little bit more about her father in this episode because Cody and Norman are hiding in the closet so that they aren't caught, and while in the closet, Norman has a flashback of a child and his mother locked in a closet while a man beats someone in the other room. Could this have been, you know, could this man that he was beating up, you know, could that have been Norman and Norman locked in a closet? I'm not sure. Maybe that was his father. Because as we know, Norman did kill his father. We know that. So, could his father have had abusive problems as well? We don't know, but that was kind of interesting to see. And again, he's kind of having one of these blackouts. Because as soon as Cody's dad leaves, Norman's in a trance. He finally comes out of it, and he tells Cody that he's been freezing a lot lately, and she grabs a bottle of liquor, and they end up leaving the house. So they head down to the river to drink, because Cody didn't think it was safe to stay in her house anymore because of possibly her father coming back. And, very awkward scene, kind of funny. Who else shows up there? Emma and Gunnar. Emma and Gunnar are also, heading down to the river. And they catch Cody and Norman making out on the rocks. Emma wants to go to a different spot, probably because it's just kind of awkward for her. But Cody warns Gunnar to stay, wants Gunnar to stay since he sells weed. And Norman, so then basically then what happens is they decide to all stay there together. And eventually they all get into, you know, they're in bathing suits and everything, and they're about to jump into a lake, and they're swinging off a cliff. Gunnar and Norman are swinging off a cliff with rope and jump into the river, and Emma tells Cody she wishes she could do that. And in the stupidest thing that Cody could do, I'm just thinking, Cody, what the hell are you thinking here? Like, seriously, this part of the episode, I'm like, Cody, what is wrong with you? Cody actually encourages Emma to take off her oxygen hose and basically jump into the lake, and I'm just thinking, and, you know, Gunnar and Norman are both warning her that it's not a good idea. But Cody reassures her that she can do it, and Emma just wanting to basically fit in with the crowd, because, you know, Emma's very, like, innocent. Even though she's had, you know, even though she had sex, she's still a very innocent person. Probably the only character on this show with a lot of values, you know, one of the only characters left. But Emma jumps into the water, and, you know, just like they thought it would, she cannot breathe. She can't breathe out her oxygen tank, and she nearly drowns. Gunnar and Norman try to save her. Once she's out of danger, Norman screams at Cody and tells her that she can't play with people like that. And he says, we're not all your toys to play with. And I thought that was definitely a very interesting thing that he said. And he tells her if Emma died, it would have been all her fault. And Gunnar tells Norman to relax. You can just see how good Norman is with Emma, and that he really still does care for Emma. And I don't know why, but I was shipping Norman and Emma pretty hard this episode. I don't know if it's just the idea of them together, or that I remember them from season 1 last season, and I wanted them together this season, or what, but whatever happened, I really was thinking that they were possibly setting them up in this episode to get together. I still think they are, after this episode. So, Emma takes Norman aside. She thanks him for saving her at the river. He apologized for freaking out, and she tells her it was to be expected because the whole situation was scary. She kisses him on the cheek and leaves. And then the biggest scene, the scene that really changes this whole storyline comes up, which is when Cody shows up at the motel, and the thing that I like is that Cody really does feel bad of what she did to Emma. She apologized to Emma for peer pressuring her into jumping in the river, but she does tell Emma that she wants to talk about something, and she wants to talk about the blackout. She asks Norman, you know, she says, Norman has blacked out with me twice so far, and it's like he's sleepwalking, and Cody thinks there may be something really wrong with him and he needs help. So, and basically then what happens though is that, while Norma's sitting on the bench, you know, she also just found out that she had gotten the seat on the city council, which, you know, that's good for her. You know, she found that out. She gets a call from Emma and tells her about Norman's blackouts. And, you know, Norma at this point is like, Emma, what's wrong? She can't figure out what's going on. And Emma tells her the truth and tells her about Norman's blackouts. Norma hangs up and rushes over to the car. You know, Norman's about to take his driver's test, but as soon as she finds out this information, she is pretty much terrified. She doesn't know what to do. So she runs right over to the driver's test and tells him that Norman has had a history of blackouts, and the instructor climbs out of the car and tells Norman he can't get his license, and he can get it in like 10 months if it stops. So Norman drives Norman home, and Norman is pissed off at Norman. We have never seen Norman so upset. You know, he's screaming at Norma, you know, basically telling her, why did you do this to me? How could you do that? And he grabs the wheel, steers the car off the road, jumps out of the car, tells his mom to go home, and he says he isn't a little boy anymore, and she can't keep him locked up in the house forever. What's interesting is that it seems like this season, everyone's walking out on Norma. The only person she has left is, you know, it seems like the only person she has left is Emma. Emma's the only person, really, that has not walked out on her. You know, it's kind of interesting with that. But then we get the biggest scene in the episode, which is when Norman barges into Cody's house, and he's screaming at her. He's telling her, you know, why did you tell Emma about the blackouts? He said he trusted her, and he accidentally wakes up her father, who's screaming at her, And, as she said before, you know, he's not usually this bad. We saw him be really bad here. He's about to beat the living shit out, you know, he's punching Norman and almost kills Cody, you know, tries to basically just beats the shit out of Norman and begins choking Cody. And Norman fights him off and accidentally, you know, pushes him down a flight of stairs. So Codys father's dead and Norman murdered him. And that's the way this episode ends. And I loved the ending because that was completely unexpected. I did not expect Norman to kill Codys father. I thought that was an amazing ending, and I love that ending. I thought that was a great ending right there. I love the way they ended that. That was fantastic right there. So yeah, that was the main plot. I love the main plot. I'm really looking forward to seeing where that goes. Let's get to Dylan's plot, because Dylan had a very interesting thing in the episode. So Zane's sister picks Dylan up from the hospital, takes him to her secluded house out in the middle of nowhere, and Dylan's he's in a wheelchair and everything, and at first I'm like, is this gonna end up like Misery? Because she's telling him, oh, I'm a big fan of your, you know, it's kind of like Misery. She shows Dylan to his room and reassures him that she has no intention of hurting him. She actually plans on keeping him safe, and it's very much like Misery. I thought she was actually gonna do something really bad to him. I kept thinking, why, I don't think I trust this girl, but, her name is Jodi, by the way, so, you know, yeah. So Dylan wakes up, and Jodi brings him an herbal drink that she brewed herself with herbs from her garden, and she tells him she's going to make dinner, and they can eat at 7 o'clock. So, Zane's sister, so she takes Dylan into an empty barn. They climb upstairs. She shows him her marijuana farm. She says that she regrets giving Remo a position, and she wants Dylan to shadow him and basically run things without letting him know that he's running. And then the biggest part of this episode, the most surprising thing happened, and I knew that, you know, I thought this was going to happen in the beginning, but then I thought this isn't going to happen, but then it did happen. Dylan's sleeping, and Jodi wakes up and says, you know, did I wake you? And he says, now you did. And she tells him, don't take this personally, and they end up having sex, and they slept together. So, you know, there was a part in this episode where I thought they did sleep together, but I thought, no, they didn't. But then they did sleep together. So, they slept together. What's gonna happen now? I mean, that was huge. And we ended the episode there. We didn't see, we ended that plot there. We didn't see what happened after that. So, I'm interested in seeing what's gonna happen with that storyline, because that kind of came out of nowhere. But that was definitely really big, and I really enjoyed that storyline a lot, because I was really into that one, definitely. Not as much as the Norman one, but I was into it enough. That's the other thing this episode did right. You know, they shifted the focus from shit we don't care about to shit we do care about. And I do really like that. Let's go to Norma's plot. So, Norma basically, her plot was that she, her friend Christine pays her a visit at the motel and encourages her to go after Lee Berman's seat on the board. She wants Norma to call the mayor and express interest in the seat, because now, you know, that's the guy who wanted to make the bypass in the first place. He's dead now, so... because, you know, Sheriff Romero beat the crap out of him, beat the shit out of him in the last episode, so, yeah, so he's dead. And, she'll have George call her and prep her for the meeting with the mayor, and then, what happens, George arrives at the motel to help Norma study local politics before her meeting, with the mayor. And Norma's in her room studying her cue card through her meeting. She mentions to Norman that George came by and helped her yesterday. Norman excuses himself and reminds her that his driver's test is in the morning. And she heads into her meeting with the mayor. The mayor mentions that Nick Ford really pushed her to get the seat on the board. The mayor doesn't even want to hear a speech that she has practiced the last 2 days. And he tells her that he'll be making his decision soon. So, then what happens, you know, and then, it turns out that she did, you know, get that, position. She got that position, and she's on the council now, so that's definitely a great thing, and, that's where, Norma's plot ended. That's really all that happened there. There wasn't else much happening with Norma's plot, but I wasn't exactly, you know, I actually kind of liked her plot in this episode, because it wasn't boring. It was interesting. It was interesting seeing her finally getting what she wanted, getting that seat, getting into the council, and now she's on that council, so... Now she has something to do, and I'm happy about that. So, Norma got what she wanted. And this episode, though, as I said, it was amazing. It was by far the best episode of the season. So much happened in this episode. You know, I'm so interested in seeing what's going to happen here. the biggest thing, you know, I'm wondering is, now that Norman's killed Codys father, how is Cody going to react to this? What's Cody going to do? Cody clearly does care for Norman. We did see that in this episode. She cares for Norman. She cares for Emma. She's realizing she's making some mistakes, and I don't know what's going to happen to Cody. I thought Norman was actually going to kill Cody in that scene. I thought that's how upset he was. I thought that's what was going to happen, that he was going to kill Cody. But I'm still thinking that Cody is going to end up dead. She's not, like, a major character or anything, so I'm thinking she will probably end up dead. So that's not going to be good. The other thing I'm interested about is Emma and Norman. As I said, very interesting between them in this episode. They had a lot of scenes together in this episode. They had a lot of chemistry in this episode, so I'm wondering, do you think they could possibly get together? I don't know, that might just be my assumption, that might just be, you know, my personal opinion, but in my opinion, I'm thinking that these two are going to get together. That's what I'm thinking is going to happen with them. That they're going to get these two together. Even if Norman is a psychopath, Emma might be the one to save him. You know, I'm thinking something's gotta save Norman, and Emma's gotta be the one to save him, so, that's what I'm thinking. Unless they want to follow the actual Bates Motel story with Norman going completely batshit, which I'm thinking they're gonna do, but I still would like Emma and Norman together. I just saw a lot of chemistry between them, and I really like that in this episode. Also, what's gonna happen with Dylan? You know, he just slept with Zane's boss, so what's gonna happen there? That's Zane's sister, so what's gonna happen there? Do you like the new character, Jodi? I actually really liked her character. She's definitely a better character than Cody. I enjoyed her character more. You know, what I like about her character is that she just, I don't know if we should trust her or not. That's what I'm wondering. But I guess we'll just have to see if we can trust her. But yeah, that's it for my review of this episode. Again, perfect episode. Nothing wrong with it. Absolutely loved it. Really loved it. Just the best episode of the season by far. Let me know what you guys saw of this episode. And I will see you guys in my next video, which will be my review for the very sad, probably really sad episode of Glee tonight. So I'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.